Hey everybody, we're going to talk about phase 2 of your unit plan. Just a reminder that you do have to upload your unit plan phases to TaskStream and to Blackboard. So the TaskStream link is in the course embedded, and you must go through the course to get to TaskStream to access our course. So we're looking at Final Project Check-in 2, and I've opened up the Word document. And the Word document tells me that this phase is worth 50 points and that I'm going to be doing two things. The first job is to make the recommended changes from phase 1 that was in your grading feedback. If you don't do that, you can lose up to 50% of your grade points for this assignment. So make sure you make the changes. And those changes have to be highlighted in yellow, just like the model, so that I can easily see your changes. So over here, I've given some examples of what those changes would look like. And you'll notice that I uploaded for you the template in a new Word document so that you can make changes. So many of you asked for that in our class session, and I went ahead and made the new template based on the KTIP template that's in EPSB. It has a little bit of spaced out information as opposed to the actual template. And the difference is this template isn't set up in forms, so you're able to highlight and bold, make italics, which we couldn't do in the original template. I also went ahead and put all 5 lessons in this one document. So here's lesson 2, scrolls all the way through. So that way you can just have one document to upload instead of having to upload all 5. So I went ahead and pretended like the feedback that I got said that my lesson title wasn't explicit enough. My original title was Buttons and Bows. So I added the words adding and subtracting to 20. And then because that was a change, I highlighted that in yellow. And then down here, the feedback I got was that I hadn't included my class rewards. So I went ahead and added a section, rewards include handing out Clark Bucks. All of this was new from what I originally had, so I highlighted this in yellow. So anything that you're adding, highlight in yellow. If you're removing something or moving it to a later part, you don't need to use a strike through and highlight that in yellow unless you would like to. You can just simply remove it. So for example, I asked you to remove all the annotation, and if you did that, you don't have to highlight that you removed it, just take it out. It is helpful for me as the reviewer if you go ahead and these sections, I didn't highlight these, or I did not bold these, but it's helpful if you go ahead and bold these and then type your information in regular type so that I can easily see. And I made a change in yellow. This just makes it much easier for us to follow and make sure that everything happens. How I'll be grading is I'll pull up the feedback that I gave you from phase 1, and I'll just do a simple checklist. Is that change made? Is this change made? And I'll check down my list. The other part of phase 1 that you had were your learning targets. And as we talked about in class, it got a little confusing for all of us with all 3 learning targets, the previous, the current, and the future learning target. So go ahead and just do the current learning target for this one lesson as an I can statement, and then attach your KDE standard. For several of you, you're using standards that are specific to your field, which you absolutely should, but those aren't standards that I regularly look at. So I've asked you to hyperlink your standards. So if you do those, add the hyperlink as I've asked you, go ahead and highlight that so that I can see that you've added that. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is completing phase 2. And phase 2 is the work highlighted in blue. So when I scroll down, I see what's required for this phase is to add my pre-assessment questions, making sure that I've got some accessible formats, and what instruction I will be changing based on that student feedback. In one of our beginning classes, we discussed the fact that pre-assessments, if we do an entrance slip when students come in, if we're not using a system like the video My Favorite No, where she collected note cards and gave that immediate feedback, it's important that we be prepared to make changes. So sometimes that means I'm actually using an exit slip from the day before so that I've got time to take apart that data and really analyze, see what needs to happen in instruction, for the next day's instruction. That's absolutely fine. So what you'll need to do is just state that explicitly. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, I need to have my pre-assessment questions. I'm going to go ahead and set this up so that I know that I don't forget anything that I'm supposed to have in here. Sorry, I was typing in the wrong spot. Okay, so I want to have my pre-assessment questions, and I realize that I'm typing over where the instructions are, so I'm going to make sure this is black, and it is already bold. So I've got to give my pre-assessment questions. If I can't just type in my questions, then if it's actually a form that I'm using, I'm going to say that I've attached it here. Tech-savvy people would put that in a Google Doc and do a Google link here. So if I'm using an assessment I found on Teacher Pay Teachers, or I got it from another curriculum, that's fine if it fits your learning targets. It would be nice to have it Google linked here, but if not, you can attach it at the end of this lesson. So I would scroll down here to where I've got room right here, and then attach assessments. Okay, so those are the two ways that you can do this. All right, headed back up here. So I've got to get the pre-assessment questions. So my questions for my pre-assessment include, since I've set up here, it's buttons and bows, and I'm adding and subtracting to 20, I'm going to do 4 plus 6, and I'm going to ask for 12 plus 5, and I'm going to add all the questions I'm going to ask. Then I'm going to say how the assessment will be given. So questions will be given as an exit slip. I will offer 3 choices. Choice 1 is the problems written horizontally. Choice 2 is the problems given as word problems with picture supports, and I would attach that. And choice 3 is uploading either 1 or 2 to students' iPad Edu Creation app, so students can record their verbal response and draw pictures to solve. Okay, so I've got some choices in how I'm giving my pre-assessment. The next thing I've got to do is analyze the data. So data analysis, and I just noticed all of this is bold, and it shouldn't be, just the subhead should be bold, so I'm going to unbold this. I'm going to move my questions down so that it kind of makes sense. All right, so how am I going to analyze the data? Data will be analyzed from the exit slip of the prior day's instruction. If students miss the 1-digit problem, I will provide a visual model and ask them to solve again. If this problem is incorrect, I will pull students during work time in class and reteach. If students miss the 2-digit problem, I will highlight the right column to remind them to add this column first, and will reteach if they miss the second opportunity. All right, so that's how I will analyze the data and what I will do to make sure that every student has mastery of that. So the next thing I'm required to do is formative assessment. So it says to include detailed strategies, a list of the type of formative assessments I will collect, how often I will collect it, and how I will change instruction. So again, the smartest strategy here is to set up some subheads. So I make sure I've got every part and it's easy to find. My detailed strategies, how often I will collect data, how I will change instruction. Okay, those are the 3 requirements that are listed here. So my detailed strategies, in this class, I think that I am going to use response cards, and I'm going to use the dry erase boards. And then every 4 problems, I will ask students to solve one on their dry erase boards and show answers. How often will I collect the data? I'm for sure going to do this every 4 problems that we solve as large group. I will record this data on an Excel on a spreadsheet. Problems will be listed so I can analyze for errors. Alrighty. How I will change instruction. If students miss a problem on their white board, I will reteach in a new way. So this might be, I'll use a picture model or use physical manipulatives or virtual manipulatives. Etc. If students miss more than 1 problem, I will plan for a remediation lesson using Khan Academy video, and I'm going to hyperlink that video here. Alrighty. And then detailed strategies. So I'm going to use response cards. I'm also going to let students analyze their own learning. And so for that, I'm going to use thumbs up, thumbs down with each problem. They will solve each group problem on their white boards, but only are showing me or the group every 4. So after they solve each problem, I'll ask for a thumbs up or down if they think they got the right answer. I will record each student who gives a thumbs down to look for patterns and common errors. All right, so that's how I'm going to handle my formative assessment. On the resources that students use, I'm going to make sure that I am listing the Common Core, and I'm going to hyperlink to the Common Core because that tells me that you know the expectations for the lesson. And then I'm going to list some professional resources. So for this lesson, since it's math, I will probably link to the Virtual Manipulatives website. Khan Academy has a video that I want to use to teach the basic lesson, so I'm going to link to that lesson. I'm going to link to the Virtual Manipulative site, And then there's another